Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Searching for Happiness podcast. I am your host, Joseph Grable. Please join me on a podcast where we try to find genuine people in a disingenuine world. Today, I'm joined by my great friend, JR Vigil. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. First and foremost, thank you for your service. I think the audience should definitely know you're a veteran. So thank you so much for your service, man. We'll definitely get into some of those talks today.
Okay.
I have a lot of questions for you in regards to veterans and, just coming back home in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I really am intrigued on that journey about it.
Okay. Yeah.
And, first and foremost, I think the best way to introduce you to is to let people know post-military, you're also a filmmaker and actor as well.
Yes.
And, that is how we met.
Yes.
Is we went to the same film school together.
Absolutely, yep.
The Los Angeles Film School. And so I've known you, I think, I want to say 4 years now.
It's about that, yeah.
Almost 4 years now. Because
Yeah.
I've been with my wife for 4 years.
Yeah.
Just about.
We did your 21st birthday. You'd just
Yeah.
been here like a couple months.
Yeah, that's right.
We went out that night.
Oh
That's a long time ago,
Oh
bro.
my, I didn't even dude, I
Yeah.
forgot. This man bought me my first ever legal drink right here.
I did.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
the bottle of Jameson, man.
Damn, man. Remember those clubs we
Oh, yeah, dude.
the clubs we went to was
Yeah.
crazy.
I think they're
no.
shut down now, man. COVID.
Yeah,
took those down.
COVID wrecked like half those clubs for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, they did.
But nevertheless, we've known each other for quite some time. And I literally had just told you, you're one of the first people I even had in mind of having on when I first started this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our schedules just never really lined up.
Nah, but it's good now.
It's good though. I feel like at that time too, I wasn't particularly good at this. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you saw me fumble a bunch before we even started the episode,
Yeah.
anyways. But I promise you, what you saw today is 20 times better than what it was.
Oh shit. Okay.
Because it was just, I was a mess in the beginning. So
No,
I'm
man,
grateful that.
It's been good to watch some of the episodes and see you doing your thing. I think you really kind of found your niche here, and the thing with mental health is like, a lot of people don't have access to therapy and stuff like that. So like just shining a light on it in the way that you do, I believe is a beacon for people that maybe not,
Thank you.
Have that kind of opportunity to hear, people that are doing things that they want to do, but they also suffer from the same mental illnesses that they do, like depression and whatnot. So I think it's a kind of a public service. So,
Oh, dude,
thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it so much.
No
And that's literally like why I wanted to start it. My past, like I'm not gonna get into it, but
Yeah.
my surgeries and just my life and just I feel like a lot of things in life are very doable, but I think when you're in a dark place, none of those things seem possible.
Hard to see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. That's a clip for sure.
Yeah.
But that is a really big reason why I started it. It's kind of just to be, like you said, a beacon to people.
Mhm.
I mainly started it just because like I know what it's like not to have a voice,
Mhm.
especially in this world. And I know everybody wants to have their own voice and whatnot, but I think topics of mental health are definitely crucial. And I've had depression my whole life. You've had depression yourself. It's a very crippling thing to have.
It is. Yeah.
And I think this podcast I've done, this will be like episode 38, I think, or something like that. 36, one of those. And I've learned so much from just everybody I've had on. I can't imagine what I'm about to learn about not only you, but just in life in general.
Oh man, no
during
pressure.
this episode.
No pressure.
Really, no pressure though. No pressure though. Because it's just here to have a genuine conversation, to see how you get in your mind, and just see your opinion, your outlook on things. And I'm very grateful to have you. Like I said a little bit ago, it's been a little here and there trying to get you on, but I'm grateful we're finally here.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, again, thank you for your service, man. I appreciate you. I come from a big military family as well.
Yeah.
So I'm very big on the troops, very big on veteran mental health. So I think a thing we really started to talk about when we had our little pre-interview was coming back home.
Yeah.
And the transition of coming back home for a veteran.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the amount of lack of resources they may have, or how much they may even get away in the way of themselves as well.
Yeah. Getting out of the military, I feel, is a lot like going into the military. You feel isolated. They put you in a hotel room, they take you to MEPS, they do your physical, put you back in the hotel room the night before you leave, and then you're gone. You don't know anybody. You're leaving your family, your friends, everything you've ever known. And then you go to training and you go to your unit and you make a new family. And then when you get out, it's the same thing all over again. You're leaving the only home you've known for, 4, 6, 12, 20 years. All those friends are gone. They're with the Army, or they get out, or whatever happens to them. But then you go back to your home life or wherever it is you choose to live, and all that camaraderie goes with it. People don't understand that. It's really hard, and I didn't understand this when I was getting out. It was really hard to keep in contact with a lot of those people that you used to talk to every day. So you go through that kind of twice. You get the homesick stuff, and then it's funny because when you leave the military, sometimes you get homesick again. You miss the structure, you miss the people. You'll have good friends, you'll have people you don't like, just like any other job, and then you'll have people that you can work with, and you have people that are really good friends to you. And so yeah, it's like going through that whole thing twice. It's kind of a wild experience.
It sounds like a very interesting experience. And,
Yeah.
I think, you could use it personally, or you could use it in a sense of, what you've heard from others. But like, what would you say is one of the first things you notice when you come back?
Just like when I went in, I guess the world was not what I thought it was, and I struggle with it to this day. Especially in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine on that.
I meet people, and I have all these things that I learned and tools that I picked up along the way on how to manage people's expectations, lead, or solve problems and stuff like that. And I run into this problem where sometimes I forget that not everybody served in the military because it's so much of my background. That when I see people do things, I'm like, how in the hell did they land there? And it confuses me. And then I have to slow myself down and realize that this person didn't have the same situations that I lived through. This person is picking it up for the first time, or, this person probably has a really good skill set in this lane. But I think when you're in the military sometimes, and especially like during like the GWAT era, a lot of us got thrown into different jobs and stuff that we weren't necessarily trained for. And we learned how to problem solve and think critically. And that's one of the main things that I see in the world when I got out was not a lack of critical thinking, but the level of critical thinking just is not sometimes what you're expecting. And it's not hard to deal with that, but it's hard to come around to the idea that not everybody thinks like you. And that goes into like, I think the male ego, or the ego of a soldier coming out, where we think we tackle these things, we can do anything. And the reality of it is everybody's world is different. Everybody's world is different, and you never know where anybody's coming from, where they've been. So you got to kind of like you got to calm that down. You might have been like the big fish in your pond in your unit, but now you're out in the world. There's a million other people like you, and you have to try to find a way to express that without, I don't know, stepping on toes, being an asshole. The problem is I think I heard something funny the other day. It said something about like being nice to people is free, costs nothing. And the thing is it also costs nothing to be an asshole. So it's easy to do. And so that was one of the biggest things coming out is not everybody's used to being coached up like we get coached up in the military.
Yeah.
Getting yelled at sometimes is not a problem for me. When somebody tells me like, "Hey, idiot, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh shit, I did something wrong." I don't automatically assume that this person doesn't like me. It's like, "Oh shit, I fucked up." But in the real world, you can't talk to people like that.
No.
You can't go, "Hey, idiot, what the hell?" And they'll be like, "Oh my God, like what did I do?" And it'll ruin their whole day. So that was one of the biggest things and it continues to be actually. Sometimes when I'm thinking critically and I'm trying to problem solve, my tone will get flat and people will think that I'm upset, and I'm not.
Especially here in Hollywood.
Everyone's
so sensitive.
They're dealing with their own egos and their own careers, and nobody wants to be the guy that messes up. And when you talk to people a certain way, how, in the military has that one tone, they use it to teach, but out here, everybody that gets talked to like that, like they think you hate them.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
and it's just like, no, man,
I just feel like no one out here, and we're talking about Hollywood, of course, Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
This is everywhere in the world, but it's definitely amplified here.
It is. I've noticed that since moving
I don't think an issue I have when I work in the film industry is nobody can take criticism. Like it's not even mean criticism either. It's just like fair, constructive criticism. Be like, hey man, like maybe don't talk during this, like when they're shooting, blah blah blah. And like even that, people like, yeah, it's like
the stuff that seems the simplest.
Yeah, like it's just like
pisses
common
them off
sense.
the most, right?
At least in your industry, it's common sense,
Yeah.
and you should know the etiquette of your industry
100%.
as well if you're gonna be in it.
100%.
And I think I can see why that's very troubling for a soldier to come back home. And I've never served. If I could, I would. I would have if I could have.
Right.
But I'm pretty disqualified. I remember in high school, I used to go out to the booths or whatever at the fairs because I lived in a small town.
And they would recruitment drives.
Yeah. I go to the Marines, the Navy. I went to the Army. I went to the National Guard. I was like, somebody take me.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, kid, like we can't. So
I hate that for you because I know a lot of people have bad experiences in the military, especially during the GWAT era. But I will tell you this: when I was young, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting away from home and learning what you're made of.
Exactly.
It was a good test. It was a good test.
I bet. And I think that's really important too. We'll go back to the veteran talk really quick, but I think it's really important to just like get out of where you're from. Like the minute, maybe not like the minute you turn 18, but before you like reach 20, like, adventure out. Like even if it's like you gotta get 4 roommates or 5 roommates. I mean that's what I did.
It's all about gaining perspective.
Yeah, and it's just like I feel like the minute you leave home is the minute you start really living your life. Like if you never leave home, I think you can live your life, yes, but I don't think you will fully live your life to its full capabilities.
No, and honestly, this is just once again, we talked about opinion. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll stunt your growth. It'll slow you down to develop professionally, because when you're in your home, you're with your parents, you're safe, whatever. Man, you need that discomfort. You need that discomfort. You need to be hungry. You need to literally be hungry. You need to, and just to kind of get some levity situation, you need to be waking up at 2 a.m., going to the bathroom, and there's no toilet paper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like you need those lessons to broaden your vision of the world. Yeah. If you can't travel, at least move across to a different city.
Or even like going broke trying to travel will teach you so much.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Being in a strange city where you have no money, that's the ultimate teacher right there.
People always ask me like my biggest lessons, like when my biggest lessons were the last few years. And I always say like the beginning of when I first moved to Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
Because I had no money. I mean, I had money, but it all went poof.
Yeah, it goes fast.
It's expensive.
It goes fast here.
I had no friends at the time. I just had my roommates who were all random people I had never met yet.
I remember that. Yeah.
Me, Ryan, Divya, Linnell. Yeah.
Linnell, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I remember Linnell. Linnell's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's great. I still keep in touch with him.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, he's a good guy. But, kind of going back to veterans, I know we got a little off. But, coming back home and having to deal with, that certain situation.
Yeah. My experience with that was a little bit different than most people, and every veteran was going to have a different experience.
Of course.
But my experience was I was medevaced out of Iraq. I had a couple injuries, and I was sent to a warrior transition unit. And it's a unit that they send you to when you're going to have, a longer medical stay than just, hey, he's fine. I ended up having to have a knee surgery, and I had to have my bicep reattached. So I was going to be there for a while. When I got there, one things I did not talk about was, and you don't talk about this in the military because it'll disqualify you from a lot of things, is mental health. Or I feel sad. I feel destructive. I feel like not myself, whatever. That'll get you taken out of your job so fast. So there's a huge stigma about that, especially at the time. I'm not sure how it is now. I've been out quite a bit.
I think it's I think it's more or less the same still, because I had a buddy, rest in peace his soul, because he passed away, but his like goal through high school was to like get in the military. Like just like that was like the thing he wanted to do with his life, was just serve his country. That was it. And he was a really good friend of mine, and they said no to him for two reasons. At first he thought, because they said he had a lot of brain issues and stuff, at first he thought it was concussions. Because he was trying to get in. He played a lot of football in high school, and it turned out it was his psychological evaluation that was preventing him from going in, which was crazy to me when I learned that, because he was like one of the nicest people I had ever met growing up.
Well, those psych evals, they don't necessarily mean that that something's wrong, you're not a nice person. I remember my psych evaluation was shocking when they told me what mine was. They told me that I had some tendencies that weren't very, I mean, the words, you hear them and you're just like, man. But what they told me is that this morality that I possessed was perfect for a soldier. Is that if I made my mind up that what I was doing was the best course, I would never feel bad about it. And so it made me the perfect soldier, is what they told me. And then I hear other people talk about, military experience. It goes back to saying like what I was saying earlier about it's not what you think it is. And a lot of people grow up and they play Call of Duty now, and they watch war movies, and they do this and they do that, and they get in their head that it's going to be a certain way. And it's never what you think it is. And so when you go in there and you answer these questions, you might be answering these questions thinking that, oh, this is what they want me to say. And I didn't know. I went in at 17, man. I didn't know shit. I didn't know that there were things you could say, things you couldn't say. I didn't know anything. I was just honest. I'll be dead honest with you. I walked in there at 17 years old, and they said, what do you want to do? Because I had a really high ASVAB score. And I was like, I want to blow shit up. That's the first thing I said to him. I'm a 17-year-old kid. I want to blow shit up. I didn't know what that meant. There was no war going on at the time. This is like 2000. Yeah. I was like, I want to blow shit up. And they were like, no. I remember them looking at me like, no, your ASVAB score. And they looked at me like that twice, because I walked out of the ASVAB place, I thought too early. And he looked at me, my recruiter looked at me. He's like, damn. Like he thought I failed it. Because I left too quick. I left too quick. I was done like 30 minutes. Damn. And they were like, oh, shit. Like the guys behind the desk were laughing at him and everything, because they knew like this guy's an idiot. So they printed out and look at it. And his eyes went from like this to, oh shit. And he's like, I had like an 83 or something on the ASVAB, I can't remember. But my line scores are real high too. And they're like, what did you want to do again? I was like, I want to blow shit up. And then the guys behind the desk were laughing even harder, because now they knew he had to talk me out of that. And he's like, no. And right then and there, we were in the MEPS building, Oklahoma City. I remember this. And he was like, no, you're not. We're going to do something else. And I said, my dad was in the infantry. My grandfather was in World War II. I believe he was in the 82nd. And I'm going to blow shit up. I'm going to the infantry. And he's like, no, son, no, please, no. GPS satellites, whatever. Like, we can make you do something like really, really nice. And I was like, look, if you don't put me in the infantry, I'll go to the Marine Corps. They'll put me in the fucking infantry. And he's like, all right, everybody slow down a bit. And they ended up putting me in the infantry units. And for training, it was 11 Hotel. And it was like a tank hunter.
Oh, wow.
It was like a mechanized unit. It was really, really cool. It was kind of transitioned into being a scout later on. But no, that was my first thing, was like, I thought being in the Army is about blowing shit up. That's the coolest thing I could do. And now that I'm older, I'm just like, I should have been like a pilot or a mechanic or something. Something tangible, Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's never what you think it is. So don't get hung up on the psychological evals, like the words they use, like flexible morality, sociopathic tendencies and stuff like that. That just means, sometimes it just means you're stubborn. Mm-hmm. We're trained to think that these words mean like this person is damaged or deranged in some way, and sometimes it's just not what it means. It's just a medical term. Now, if it's an extreme case, then absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
But I think a lot of kids go in there thinking that they're brainwashed by the media, film, video games, not in a derogatory way, but they think what's expected of them is something that's not.
Yeah.
And for everybody that's going in, I would say just be yourself. Just be yourself. Don't go in there thinking, you're the biggest dick in the room. Don't go in there thinking that, you know, they want you to be like this Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. You know, just go in there and be you. And I promise you, the military's so big and there's so many jobs, like its own little civilization inside of ours. There's a spot for you. You're just a nice guy that likes computers. There's a spot for you. I got a friend that does that.
Yeah, dude. Like my sister, she's in the Navy, and she's just a cook, dude.
Yeah.
She just like she loves cooking, and she's like,
it takes a village, man. Got to keep that ship going.
She shows me pictures. I'm like, that's great. Like, you know, she got to cook for the ships and stuff. So, you know, there's definitely a job for everybody, and I think that's really, really good advice to give somebody. Because I feel like a lot of, you know, kids that are leaving high school or even kids that are homeschooled, they kind of go in thinking, oh, this is a moment for me to reinvent myself, make myself the top dog. Yeah. And really it's
and like, you can be.
You can be.
But you never know what's going to happen until you get yourself in that situation. And that's a life lesson that you learn early in the military, especially when you go in like 17, 18 years old, is until you're put in that situation, you don't know how you're going to handle it. You know, you might not be able to take somebody yelling at you or telling you that everything you're doing is wrong. Because I'm going to be honest with you, everything you do is wrong when you get there. Yeah. And it is, because
that's what my sister says too.
There is a set way that they do things, and it is not the way your mom wanted you to do it, you know. And you have to break yourself out of that shell, and uniformity is a thing. But that's also the thing that leads to a lot of mental health issues. Is some of those people that are in charge are not well adjusted themselves. You know,
makes sense.
And it's the human element. You know, you don't like everybody. You don't like everybody, and you know, the higher ups don't like you, and that's a problem. Like sometimes that is an issue. It's not always the case, okay? Because a lot of NCOs, they should be looking out for their troops, and they should be putting, you know, but some people get put in positions, and you know, they're at the end of their careers, and they're as high as they're going to go. They're at the end of their contract, and they're not going to get their 6, they're not going to get their 7, and they're bitter, you know, and they can see the young bucks coming up that are better than them, and sometimes you will get singled out. It is a problem, but I think that happens everywhere, doesn't it?
It does. I think so. Every job I've ever had, it's always like that.
It happens. Like it happened to you at Chipotle. Your manager could just hate you.
Yeah.
You know. The thing is that's where you start to figure out who you are. You know, are you the guy that takes that criticism that you know is unfair and you just complain and bitch about it and woe is me? Are you the guy that gets up and says, "All right, motherfucker, game on"?
I like to tell people that, you know, the biggest lessons you learn in life are from like heartbreaks and from situations just like that, where, you know, you realize, you know, either A, the grass is greener somewhere else and you got to improve, or B, something's not particularly right for you. And, you know, like that's a heartbreak in itself, is like, say, you know, you're dedicating all your years and your time to something, and then you realize like, oh, like I'm not as good as I thought I was. You know, and like all these young bucks are coming up. That's a real heartbreak that I don't think people really understand. Like it's heartbreaking to watch, you know, like for instance, for our industry in filmmaking, completely different. But like to watch somebody, say you're somewhere working your ass off, running circles around everywhere, but then you watch somebody get an opportunity just because they knew somebody. That like breaks all our hearts out here. You know what I mean?
It
like
does.
It's a heartbreaking thing. And so, you know, I definitely think there's a lot of mental health issues in that itself. And, you know, I think that people, when they're put in those situations, because everybody's put in those situations, at least eventually, you know, especially the young bucks coming up type thing.
I don't think you can go through life without being through adversity. And I think if you go through life without adversity, it's actually a disadvantage for you.
I agree.
It's actually 100% a disadvantage for you. If you've never fought for what you wanted, how do you know it's what you really wanted?
That's why I don't get jealous anymore I used to get really like jealous and envious of like celebrities and people that had at a young age, like say for instance, Zendaya, right? She's been acting forever. I would, back a few years ago, I would be like the jealous type to be like, bro, like she probably never really struggled in life. And then I'm sitting here working my ass off, but at the same time,
it's work, man.
It's work.
Work.
And then you start working it, and then you realize this is like a lot of work that she had to put in, and like it's a lot.
I've done a couple different jobs throughout my life. I was in the military. I did finance when I got out, and one of the things
that's right, you did.
Yeah, one of the things about success is that everybody looks at what you have, but they don't ever really think about what it took to get there. Okay. So all these people you see, and you know, it's so hard to make it in Hollywood. It's so hard.
It's so hard, dude.
But
what, we've been at this for like 5 years now.
the ones that make it, like that are household names, you didn't see them grind.
Mm-hmm.
You're just seeing what the media wants you to see. Like, this person's successful. This person's somebody to look up to. They're aspirational. You know, look into these people. But you didn't see them eating ramen noodles at fucking 10 p.m. in their studio apartment. You know, we didn't see that part of them because we didn't know who they were then. And life for everybody is the same way. Until you stand up and fight for what you want, you don't even really know if you want it. And once you get it, and you do know you want it, and you want it to keep going, sometimes that gets taken away from you, and sometimes people are going to hate on you for getting that because they don't have it yet. Mm-hmm. But that goes back to, what kind of person are you? Are you the person that bitches and says, man, I wish that was me? Or are you the person that goes out there and you find your little lane, and you get in there and you make that you? And
that's what's changed between me in the last few years. I was that jealous person. Now I'm kind of...
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I was saying before the podcast, like this whole gig I have currently, I'm just going to write it because, like, you know, you never know where it's going to lead to. Mm-hmm. It's a big opportunity. And two, you know, like, that's just the things I used to want aren't what I want anymore. Yeah. And it's taught me to kind of carve my own path,
you know,
in this industry. And I'm sure you came into the industry already knowing that too.
Yeah. I came in with that experience, and I came in as an actor, but I didn't know shit about Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot as an actor before I went to film school. In fact, the reason that I went to film school was because I learned a lot as an actor, and I realized how much I didn't know. But I think that's something that comes with age. And you said something like, you know, when you get older, you want something different. And this is the same thing. You can use this in personal relationships or professional relationships. My father told me this young, and he wasn't around a whole lot. I think he passed when I was like 19. But he told me this when I was young, and I still quote this to people today when they have problems with relationships or friendships or professional things. Two things. One, you have two choices in life. You can leave, or you can deal with it. Okay? Number two, and this is the funny advice, try not to get married till you're 35. Try. Because it's very rare that somebody will grow with you unless you're both very dedicated to what you do. Mm-hmm. If you're dedicated to the relationship and everything else is on the outside, it's hard to do that when you're young, but it is possible. It's rare.
Oh, it's hard.
But yeah, you know.
I know.
And he told me, never get married until you're 35. Because sometimes the woman that you want in your 20s is not the one you want in your 30s. And the thing is that works the same way with careers. I know plenty of people out here in Hollywood that they were something else before they got here. They came out here thinking they were going to do one thing. They don't even do that thing anymore. And I don't know. It's like, when you can get on your own and you can find out everything else that you're wanting to do, you know, whatever that is, it's a gut check. It's a gut check. And the veterans and stuff that are coming out, it's another gut check. It might be an unnecessary one in the way that it's handled, I feel. Mm-hmm. But like, when veterans get out, like I said, they lose all the camaraderie, and that doesn't exist out here. You know, nobody knows who you are. Everybody's trying to get ahead. Everybody's looking out for them.
That's my
And you know, if you're lucky enough to have some like childhood friends or whatever, that eases the blow. But I'll tell you, one guy said to me when I got out, he said, when you go back home and you think you're normal, you think you're fine, everything else, listen to your friends and your family. If they tell you that something's wrong, that you're too quick to anger or whatever, listen to them, because they know. And you know what? You know, my ego said when he said that, fuck that. Nobody's gonna tell me I'm too angry. Nobody's gonna tell me that you know, something's wrong with me. I know me. I know me. Mm-hmm. If I'm not physically hurting, I know me. And that was one of the biggest things, was getting past that ego, was realizing that my friends and family were right. Like, I remember one specifically when I got home. He says, just after I had my arm surgery, so I was still on my convalescent leave, and I had a glass of water in my hand, and my brother said something to me, and I think we got into a fight or something. And my mom was standing there, and she says, you know, you're so fast to get angry now. You were never like that before. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, and I just, you know, I thought it was over. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, you can go from just a normal conversation with someone to just yelling at them in like no time flat, like 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. And you're so over the top angry at them. And, you know, me being me at the time, you know what I did? I slammed that fucking glass on the ground. Like, you mean like that? And I walked out. I walked out of the house and I got in my car. I was stationed at Fort Sill at the time in WTU. It's about 45 minutes away from Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove back to Fort Sill that night, and I was like, maybe she's got a point. Maybe I overreacted. And I self-isolated. And the funny thing about that is it wasn't up until recently that I actually told her that as soon as I left, about 15 minutes down the road, I was like, she had a point. And it goes back to what that man says, like, listen, learn to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're in charge or whatever, sometimes you get used to giving the orders and being right all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But real leaders will understand when they're wrong. Like me, for myself now, and this was not true of me back in the day. Me, myself now, I'm not one of those guys that can't say, I don't know. I know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot because I've done a lot. But when I come to something that I don't know, I will flat out tell you. I have no idea how to do this. I have no idea how to do this. I wasn't like that when I was young. That's something that comes with age. I wish that I was that way when I was younger. I think I would have been farther. I think I started myself by maybe acting like I knew some stuff that I didn't. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things when you get out of the military. I would say to people when they get in the civilian world, you don't know this world. This is going to be different. It's going to be hard. It's going to be some challenges. Do not be afraid to be the guy that says, I don't know. Mm-hmm. In the military, when you're throwing a hand grenade, they go with you only throw a hand grenade one time in training when you're infantry. One time. But man, they spend like 5-6 days telling you about it. Specifically. Because they know you don't know this. Mm-hmm. You know? And these guys are there longer. They know you don't know this. Where in your life have you ever thrown a hand grenade? Yeah. You know what I mean? So they're like, they drill it into you. And that's something to think about with mental health is like when somebody tells you something that's in that position for guys that get out of the military, just fucking listen. Just fucking listen because it can be a detriment to you if you don't. You can go through your whole life thinking that you're fine and you really have some things happening with you that can be solved. Now, I'm not saying like listen to everybody. Mm-hmm. I think you should question everything. But you should definitely, take it under advisement. And that's something that a lot of young people don't do when they get out of the military. I think for young soldiers to get out of the military, back to the original question, which is, I know we've rambled a lot, but I think I would just...
That's the best part, though, is when you ramble and you can just talk about what you feel.
Yeah, I think a young soldier getting out of the military, learn to listen. Okay, you have some extra experience. You have some extra stuff that you've been through that most people haven't. You have a unique experience in life. Mm-hmm. I think it said something like 1% of the U.S. population serves in the military. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not a lot of people. So you have a unique experience. But when you get out here, they have also gone on living their lives. They have also been doing other things. They've also been, learning their craft, perfecting their craft, like whatever it is that they're doing, banking, finance, sales. I would hope that the people that are running your company or that you're underneath are subject matter experts on what they do, which mm-hmm. is why they're there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's okay to be better than them, but you're not going to be better than them right away. So learn to listen. Learn to say, I don't know. And then really pay attention to family and friends because they really do love you. You have to remember that. Your family and friends really do love you. And mm-hmm. they in some cases, they look up to you because of your experience. But listen to them. If they say something that you don't necessarily like, it's just because they're not necessarily comfortable with it. I was talking to my mom, and she told me, I told her we were going to come on the podcast.
We were just talking about this last night.
And she told me, I thought I made this great progress coming out, and I put myself in isolation during my thing after that fight with the glass and everything. So I decided not to go home as much, and I came out, and that's why I said my situation was unique. I came out when I was ready. I had 9-month recovery, 10-month recovery with my shoulder. Mm-hmm. So I just had to make my appointments, go to mental health, check it out, everything else like that. And by the time I left there, I felt like I was well adjusted, and everybody I met for what I did, they're like, yeah, do you have nightmares? Yeah. The typical questions. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I'm good now. Man, I thought I really did something. I really beat this thing. And it wasn't until recently, just yesterday, I was telling my mom how I felt during that time period. And she told me it was 5 years before I saw my son again.
That's crazy.
I just found that out yesterday. I've been out for 13 years.
That's crazy.
I thought, man, I beat that shit in like 2 years. Got back to normal. Mom's like, man, it was like at least 5 years after you left that unit that I didn't see my son smile the same way again. Wow. And it was just integrating. So it's not a sprint. Like with everything, life is a marathon. You have to take your time. It's not gonna It's not going to be drastically better one day than the next. You're not going to unfuck your situation in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. If you can, more power to you. But it's probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So just take your time, adjust. And unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that veterans don't get is they don't get time to readjust back to that. It's like, and honestly, it kind of hurts you the way they do it. Like a lot of people that are out here in film school or in film, they're veterans or disabled veterans from the GWAT era. A lot. We're at war for 20 years. A lot of people have injuries. So they're getting paid this extra money. And when you get out, maybe you were on a couple deployments and you saved your money tax-free. You saved a bunch of money up. Or you signed an extension contract overseas, so you get a tax-free bonus. If you have a good job, that bonus could be in the 6 figures. They just give it to you, lump sum. So one of the things that happened to me was when I got out, I got handed all this money. And I was able to go back home and live, and I didn't have to work. And it took me a while to figure out, what the hell do I do now? And so everybody that was around me was in real estate, different facets. So, man, while I had that money, I learned everything. I learned home inspections. I learned mold inspections. I learned construction contracting. I learned how to be a realtor. I studied everything. I landed on mortgages and finance. I landed there, and I just built from there. And for a while, I did everything I could to be successful. And I looked around, and my peers were like in their 50s and in their 40s, and they have really good lives, and I was right there with them, and I wasn't satisfied. It wasn't me. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't figure out why. And so as the young veteran that I was then, I just quit because I can afford to. I just did something else. And I floated along till I came out here to California, and I figured out that working in this industry is good for me because it changes. It changes. The situation changes. The movie changes. The job changes. I mean, one day I'm maybe working as a producer, PA, doing something, running around getting coffee. Next day I'm on set as an actor. I'll write something, so now I'm a writer. And then I direct it. So now I'm fundraising and trying to fund my own movie and putting these things together and just telling stories. And that works for me, but it's that extra money, man. It makes a big difference, but it can be a detriment to you because it can make you complacent.
Yeah.
So have a plan. I would say before you get out of the military, have a plan. That's my biggest advice is have a fucking plan, but don't be upset. Don't be discouraged if that plan isn't what you think it is and you have to shift. I mean, as a military personnel, that should be like one of the best things you could do is adjust, because we adjust on the fly in military life every day because sometimes shit just doesn't work. That's another thing too. You talk about military movies, and one of the biggest things is like when you see those like command centers and they have all the screens on and everything like that. Man, I always laugh at those because it's like, man, half that shit wouldn't be working if this was real. Half those screens aren't coming on. If they even had a setup like that,
yeah,
which they don't. I've never seen it. Maybe at NORAD or something. I don't know. But if they had a setup like that just for a random routine mission, man, half that stuff ain't working. Yeah. Or you'll have the visuals, but you won't have comms. Something's gonna go wrong. You gotta adjust. And that's my biggest piece of advice for young veterans coming out. Learn how to adjust. Have a plan, but learn how to adjust. That's it.
I think it's great advice.
Yeah, well.
I definitely couldn't have said it better because I don't have that experience.
It took me a lot of years to figure that out, but here we are.
It's good though. It's good. It's good that we've made it here. We've made it to this point. I love it. I love the advice. I think a big thing to kind of build off of that. Veterans coming home too, is I read somewhere recently that like over 40% of veterans kind of deal with drug issues coming back as well, trying to find themselves and trying to avoid themselves in a sense. What is your, what do you think?
I never really had an addictive personality. I didn't really drink until I was like 27, and I don't even really drink now.
Yeah, I never see you drink. Like every time we've hung out, are you?
I drink
literally,
socially. Like at your birthday, I drank. I
Yeah,
drink
you-
socially, but
you-
I have like one or two. I don't.
Yeah,
get crazy.
you never go like crazy. I don't even
No.
remember you drinking on my birthday, to be honest.
No, I mean I was kind of playing host dad there, but I do drink. I have a couple vodka sodas. I keep it even. But when I first got to the WTU in San Antonio, was when I first got medevaced out. I started off at Fort Bliss, and I remember they walked me from the emergency room, and then they got me in a van and went over to the barracks. And to your point, there was soldiers in their rooms playing poker for pain pills. That was their chips.
Yeah.
They were playing poker with their medication. They were gambling their medication. They were giving us so much medication, in fact, that I couldn't take it all. I'm like I said, I don't really drink alcohol. I don't really do a lot of drugs. I think I do cannabis now, but that's just for pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly because I don't like taking the other stuff.
That's fair.
I don't like taking the painkillers. I don't like taking antidepressants. I'm like just raw dogging the shit.
Yeah, I don't.
It made me feel weird.
Antidepressants.
I took them while I was in, but when I got out, I realized that I couldn't really feel anything, and that wasn't me. It was like I kind of say it's like being drunk.
Well,
like you can tell what you're doing, but you can't stop it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about like I used to be on antidepressants when I was younger, like a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I don't think a lot of people realize is it's just like any other drug. You take it long enough, it kind of stops working for you.
Yes.
It's like
you get the bad effects, but you don't get the good ones.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, I had ADHD medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
You take that for like 6 years straight, same
Doesn't
dosage,
work.
same everything. It doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't.
Your body gets used to it.
It doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, the drug problem in the military is a really, really big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was an issue, and you're probably too young to remember this, but I was too young to remember everything that happened. But there was an issue at Walter Reed after Afghanistan kicked off where soldiers were getting kind of just wheeled out. Good luck. See you later. And people were like, no, this can't happen. This can't happen. The public was like, no, there's no way. This guy's messed up. You can't just leave him alone. And that's when you started seeing like a bunch of veterans getting treated better. They started getting more care.
Mm-hmm.
On the level they should have been while they're in, yes. While they're out, probably not. But I think that's a problem with the country as a whole. But I remember what they did to me as I had a lot of injuries, and they gave me like a blood pressure medication that suppressed dreams. They got me on antidepressants. They got me on anti-inflammatories. I was on 2 or 3 different kinds of codeine, I think, because I didn't like the first one, so they gave me another one. And I fucking hated it. But I don't have that addictive personality. Not everybody's that lucky. Not everybody's that lucky. They need to get numb, and which is why we drink while we get high.
I think that's why like a lot of soldiers coming back from deployment or even war,
it's
trauma. Fresh
trauma.
off of war. It's just trauma.
It's
and
trauma. They
like,
just hand feed them these pain pills.
They
just
hand feed them pills, and then when they get out to the real world, like I don't drink or smoke anymore. Like period. Like. Me, dude. I've been like the biggest pothead.
Yeah,
since
you got here.
Yeah, since the day you met me. I think I'm like almost 3 months sober. Yeah, I'm like.
I got a story for you that you might not remember.
Okay, bet. But that's my biggest thing is just the accessibility for me, for like just a normal guy, random dude. I can get any type of drug at any time if I want to.
Yeah.
Man, they got street signs.
In fucking Hollywood, bro.
I know. They got like street signs literally up on like poles.
Yeah.
That say you want shrooms ?
Yeah.
Call this number or like coke or whatever, and you're just like sitting there like, how does this even? So I can only imagine.
I remember we went to a Raiders game. Me and my fiance went to a Raiders game a couple months ago. And there was a guy out there with just mushrooms, just selling mushrooms.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're readily available. You're right. You can get them.
Yeah, they're just available. But it's like, I don't think any of us really talk about the detriment or the not detriment, but I don't think we really talk about how much of an impact that is on soldiers coming home because you're sensitive.
It is. And they hand feed it to us, and we have TRICARE and we have healthcare, and they nothing costs any money. As long as you have that TRICARE Prime, I think your prescriptions could be like $5 or nothing. Yeah. And their answer to that is, here, take a handful of these, you'll be fine. I don't prescribe to that. I don't like it. You can call it tough or stupid or whatever, but I don't like the way medication makes me feel. I don't like putting weird things in my body because I could feel them like exponentially when I take them, and I just don't like it. But I think soldiers that have trauma, from war or There's a lot of, sexual abuse, sexual assault cases in the military, hazing. Some people aren't built for that kind of stuff. Nobody's built for the other stuff, for sure. But the hazing stuff, I mean, it can go too far and it can cause trauma. And then when they just hand you this handful of medication, I think the problem is nobody tells you, like you say, take it long enough, you got to get off it. But the thing is, you have to get off of everything. Mm-hmm. Antidepressants weren't made to last forever. I don't believe. And when a doctor hands you a pill, I firmly believe they should also have a plan to get you off of that.
I agree too.
Because the time will come where you don't need it. It will. Things will change.
And it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
There's no timetable.
I've been taking pills since I was like pretty much born.
Yeah.
And it just never stopped. And it's like they kind of fight you getting off of them.
They do.
They like fight you because like I remember
because they fix the problem as long as you're taking them.
Yeah, I remember after my last heart surgery, which was when I was like 18 or something like that, 18 or 17, and they said I only needed the painkillers for like a week, which I barely even took anyways because I hate pills. Like I've been taking them so long. I just hate them at this point.
Yeah.
So like I'm just like, no, like I'm good. And they were mad at me that I didn't want to have another 30-day supply. I was like, they're like, no, we really, really suggest it. I was like, I feel fine. Like, I don't, like, it's for my physical pain. Like, I don't have, like, I have physical pain in my chest, in my legs, but like, like it's nothing I can't get through.
You get used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird what you get used to.
Yeah. And I was like, if I really hurt, then I'll come back and like take some, but I just don't see it. And it's because my family is very addictive personalities as well. I have a brother in prison for being an addict.
Oh,
so
shit. Okay.
yeah. So like it's very prominent in my family to have addictions. So like that's why it was so hard for me to kind of kick the cannabis and kick my drinking and stuff too, is because that in itself was like a whole nother battle. And I think it put a lot of perspective. Me getting clean put a lot of perspective in my head, and not only how much I respect, people that can get clean, especially if they've been a soldier. That's like double trauma.
It is
amplified.
And you learn to lean on that to get rid of it. It's like a lot of any kind of trauma. You try to find an escape from it to disassociate, and it's a problem. Painkillers, opioids. It's a national epidemic, really. It's not just a soldier epidemic. It's a national epidemic, and they're so quick to prescribe pills than actually fix the problem.
Yeah, they're quick because it makes
easy.
them money, and it makes them a stupid amount of money, which makes
I
just never understood like why doctors go to school
to treat it with a pill.
Like if you and I'm not a doctor, so I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. But I am a patient, and I've been a patient for 25 years. And I've been in painful situations, and I've seen doctors do things and stuff and treat people certain ways. And just like, I always say in my head, I'm like, why did you become a doctor? Like, if you don't even want to, like, properly help this person. Not help them, but properly help them.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question.
Because, like, help, dude, like, help is such a far off word these days. Like it means like a million different things. People
it can be like that. It can be like I've met a few doctors that are anti that, but you're right, it's rare. And I think the military is kind of made for that kind of culture where they're just like,
I agree,
take this and go away, take this and go away, and whatever gets you back to the front line, just take that and go, and we'll worry about all the ramifications later, because right now we just need numbers. That is an aspect of the military, unfortunately, that will probably never go away. How I have dealt with it since I moved to California, I don't smoke. I don't think I've ever even smoked a cigarette before, ever. Cannabis gummies. My body starts hurting, my knees hurt, my arm hurts, my back hurts, which you're a veteran, you're going to hurt. When it gets too bad, just take a gummy. But I mean, I'm so sensitive to medication, man. I can take, this is almost embarrassing, 10 milligrams and I'm good. 10 milligrams.
I wouldn't call that embarrassing. I'd call that impressive, because like it's me.
Yeah.
Like say I'm trying to take, well, maybe not now. Maybe I'd probably be zooted out of my mind now. But before, I've been smoking cannabis since I was 14, and I'm 25 now. And I just quit. Like, so I did it for like a whole decade. I you could even, if you ever see Linnell again, you can ask him. I used to take like 4 edibles with that guy to even feel a thing.
You know, the funny thing about that is that kind of goes to your tolerance, and I'm glad that you're sober. But the story that I was going to tell you that you might not remember, you and I think it was shortly after your birthday, the 21st birthday. You and I were supposed to work together on something like a short or something for school. I can't remember what it was exactly, but you didn't show up, which was very unlike you.
Mm-hmm.
And I called you, texted you, tried to figure out where you were. And you called me back. You said, JR? I was like, yeah. You're like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it today. I said, what's going on, man? You good? And you're like, man, I took some gummies, and I think I took too much.
I think it was that exact day I was just talking about.
Yeah, and you were like, what do I do? I said, buddy, you're going to have to get you a glass of water, go take a nap, and ride this one out. I got you. Like, but you're on this trip alone from here on out. Just go take a nap. When you wake up, you'll feel better. Get you some food. You're gonna want that later.
Yeah, because I think it was actually the same day we were just talking about. That's so funny because I remember I took like 4 edibles,
and it was too much.
It wasn't too much yet. Like it wasn't because I waited like 2 hours. I was like, because I was like, I don't have this thing to like. I was like, I got this thing to go to, but like. Yeah. You know, like, you know me, I used to show up to set like stoned as hell and stuff like that. I haven't done, I don't do that anymore. No. I haven't done that in a long time, actually, because professionalism.
You know, the funny thing is in the beginning, you weren't like that. Because we worked on a lot of stuff when you first started, and I don't remember ever seeing you like that. Maybe it was something that developed a habit later on, like those addictive personalities you're talking about, that run within your family. But it sounds like you got a hold of it. And, you know, being sober for 3 months is, you know, awesome. It's hard, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember when you used to stay up all night and just play video games and stuff like that. Just insomnia was kicking your ass.
Dude, I can't even stay up past like 10.
Really? Yeah, the healthy habits, man. Healthy habits.
Work's gonna kick my ass though. I know that.
Anytime you're on set like that, anytime I've ever been on set anyway, it doesn't matter what kind of physical condition I was in. After a 12-hour day, your mind is melted. Mm-hmm. You know, and you go home, you go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, even with this company, it's like they're so big that they'll pay the fees to have you on even longer.
Oh yeah.
I'll be on set for like 16 hours a day sometimes. Yep. I'm like, bro, how is this legal? They're like, it's not. They're just paying the fees.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, cool.
It's a machine like any.
But you see your paycheck and then you're like, oh, okay, cool.
See, and that's the funny thing. Maybe that's why I like Hollywood so much. It's a lot like the military. I mean, the military,
I get that a lot.
They pay you a salary and you're on call 24/7.
Yeah, that's what Daniel and Chris also said.
Yeah, I just came to that realization just now. I was like, yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, and Hutch said the same thing as well. It was like, it's just like it's very military-like structure. Mm-hmm. So that kind of brings me kind of another question is we talked a lot about like the hierarchies in society and the hierarchies we talked about the hierarchies in the military and how you kind of go from level to level to level to rank to rank to rank. Mm-hmm. Do you think that society now coming back, especially being out for over plus 10 years, do you think society has hierarchy types as well, or is it kind of just like everybody doesn't know? I feel like
society right now in this day and age is more class-based than anything.
Makes sense.
So it's not a system you're used for, because hard work doesn't always mean you're going to succeed. That's like, I think one of the biggest misnomers is you can sit there and you can grind. You might not make it. But the point is to keep an eye on your surroundings and peaking at the right time. Yeah. Making you move at the right time is good, because I mean, you can grind and grind and grind, but you have to be seen by the right people.
Exactly.
You have to be seen by the right people. So and those people aren't always necessarily like directly above you. Like they could be, you know, working for a completely different company. This thing about Hollywood is all these different companies come together. So you have the potential to be on a project and be in front of people from like Warner Brothers or whatever, and everybody's watching. Everybody's watching. And the point is, when you get those opportunities to impress, be you, be true to yourself, be a hard worker, just do your job.
And I think that's really powerful too, because I don't want to say it's frowned upon to be yourself in this industry, but it's pretty much incredibly frowned upon to be yourself in this industry.
I'm myself in all situations.
Exactly. I am the same way. I'll never forget this. You know, the project I'm on currently, I was on back in April before the strike and stuff. And I remember, like, I just went in, like, super happy, obviously, because it was dope. But, you know, a lot of the people on that show are very jaded, though.
Mm-hmm.
Very jaded, like, to the industry. And they've been doing it for so long, they don't really care anymore. Like there are PAs on there that have been PAs for, like, 5 years. They just don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I come in there with this ecstatic energy and, like, and it's frowned upon. Like, they get in there and everyone starts, like, looking at you.
They hate
like,
your energy. They hate you for being so enthusiastic.
Like, who is this guy? Like, you know, and I think, but it paid off really well going into that situation because I have phone numbers in my phone that are just bonkers.
That's what I'm saying.
You know
it does pay off. Be yourself, because be true to yourself. Don't do anything that you normally wouldn't do just to impress somebody. That's not going to get you anywhere.
I agree.
I was on a movie set. I believe it was the the Infiltrators, and I was going in to get my paycheck for the day. It was a daily thing. They kept asking me to come back. It was only supposed to be a couple days, and they kept asking me to come back. And we started talking about. The guy walked in. This guy's like, "Man, JR's always smiling." I was like, "Oh, I'm just happy to be here."
Yeah.
And I was like, "It gets me in trouble sometimes, though." And he said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, I live in Hollywood, and where I grew up, you make eye contact with somebody accidentally, you smile and you wave or you nod or whatever, but you acknowledge them."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I forget I'm in Hollywood sometimes, and I smile at people, and they're like, they look at me like fucking weird.
They, like, scold you. You're
Yeah. They look at you like you're fucking like an alien or something." And I told the producer this, and I was like, "I need to learn to not do that." And you know what that producer told me? Don't. Keep smiling. Fuck them. Keep smiling. He's like, "That's why we keep asking you to come back, because of your energy."
Mm-hmm.
So, it's such a difference to hear somebody in this industry tell you to be yourself, because the people around you that are your peers, they won't always like you for it.
No.
But at the same time, it's the same thing in the military. It's like sometimes your peers aren't going to like you. Mm-hmm. And you get the favoritism, and you get this, and you get that, whatever. But Hollywood's the same way. When you're good at something, they're going to keep asking you to do more. And I think that's another reason why veterans maybe like are attracted to this field.
I think so too. There's a lot of veterans.
There's a lot more than I thought. I can tell you that much.
That kind of brings me to, like, I think a very fitting question for this situation too. It's like, we definitely have to, like, wrap up soon, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, now that we're talking about movies and veterans, I would really like to know, in your opinion, like, what is the best representation in a film of a soldier coming home?
Soldier coming home.
Like, it could be just something they're doing, or it could be, like, the moment they're coming back through travel, like, anything. Like, I have a scene in my head that I'll tell you after.
And that's the funny thing is I don't know that there are a lot of movies that deal with that. There was one with Tobey Maguire and Jake Gyllenhaal, but I think he was like
Brothers.
a POW or something. Brothers,
yeah.
Yeah, and it can be like that.
Yeah.
It can be like that. A lot of my, veterans have a high rate of suicide. Mm-hmm. And I say when you come home, you lose a lot of your friends. And a lot of it, they stay in the unit, you get out. They stay in. But I've lost quite a few friends to suicide, and, the thing is, like, sometimes you don't get a note. Sometimes you don't know why. I honestly have a couple friends now that have committed suicide that I honestly don't know why they did it. And I only imagine that put in a situation like that for brothers, maybe they were going through that kind of shit. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It wasn't that I didn't reach out. It's just that you lose contact with these people.
100%.
People change their phone numbers.
You don't even... Unfortunately, you don't even have to lose contact with people for them to lose their battle either, though. Mm-mm. It's like
not at all.
Like my uncle James, he was a Marine. I think he was a Marine for like 12 or like 10 years, something like that. But he committed suicide as well. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm sorry to hear about your friends. But he seemed totally fine. He seemed normal. Like, he had a good job as a businessman, like a legit businessman. He owned a company, or starting to begin to own a company, and just like where he was taking it over. And, it's just like, he's like one of the most fun, nicest people I knew. And like, you just like, it just out of nowhere, it'll just smack you like that. And I think it's just,
that's life.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that trauma from military is what, definitely.
Is that the movie you were thinking of?
No, Brothers. No, that was one of them I was thinking of. I was thinking of because I'll never forget this. I was sitting down with one of my buddies, and he's a veteran also. We were watching American Sniper,
I haven't seen that.
Y'all, you haven't?
Mm.
Well, there's a scene in it. I think he told me, which is what makes me think it, because he's done terrible things for the military.
Mm-hmm.
He never talks about it, but he definitely will just say, I've done terrible things for the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching the movie, and he just got like super emotional because he's like that is the most accurate scene I've ever seen. And it was Chris Kyle, which was Bradley Cooper, and he was just sitting in a chair staring at a blank TV for like an hour.
That can happen.
Like nobody is like, he's not talking, he's not moving, nothing. He's just sitting there with a blank.
That does happen to me. But it's not always a negative thing. Sometimes I just like the quiet.
That's what he said.
Sometimes I just like it when it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to think if you're quiet, and I have a really bad case of resting bitch face, and people always think something's wrong with me because I'll just sit there and just be like, oh, I'm not thinking it. I look pissed, and that's not always the case. Sometimes I'm just enjoying the silence.
I think it's important to enjoy silence.
You have to learn how to be alone with your own thoughts.
Yeah. You gotta learn. Like I don't work out with music for that exact reason.
Really, I do work out with music because I like that too.
I feel it. That's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I used to listen to music a lot in audiobooks when I worked out, but then I don't remember. Maybe it was Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know. He had a guest on, and they didn't say it was like cheating to work out and listen to music, but they're like, how can you understand yourself if you can't even understand yourself? Like when you don't even hear yourself when you're exhausted. And I was like sitting there, I'm like,
yeah,
it's like they got a point. And I actually enjoy it a lot. Like I still bring my headphones because they're like soundproof, but I don't listen to music anymore and stuff. And
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you ever sit in your living room and just stare at a wall?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
My therapist tells me to do that actually.
How do you feel about that?
Some days are better than others. But I think it's very rejuvenating. Like it's very good for the soul because it's like you figure out what you want in those moments.
Yeah.
You figure out what you need to do in those
clarity.
Moments. Exactly. I was like, well, my wife, she always asked me like, what did you do before, LA? And I was like, I would just work like at Buffalo Wild Wings and just like go to school, just like random jobs. And she's like, what made you but what pushed you out here? And I was like sitting there, I was like, I was like, to be honest, like I used to get super stoned and just stare at my TV. Like there's like nothing on. I would just stare and just think about like, how am I going to do this and this and this and this? And like, how would I transition from this to this? And like, it's very rejuvenating. It's like meditating. I'm trying to learn how to meditate properly because I hear meditation has the same benefits.
It's funny you say the reasons you came out here, and we talked about veteran suicides and transitioning and stuff like that. But to throw it back to the civilian population, one of the main reasons that I moved out here was because I'd been separated from the military so long. I went back to Oklahoma City. My father had passed, and my mom was raising 2 teenage boys, and I came back to help her out. And my youngest brother had just gotten into college, and so I was kind of entering the realm where they didn't really need me anymore. They're becoming men and doing their own thing. And I made this really good friend over the years, and his name was Shandana Majors, and he was like my brother. He was my brother. And he's never served in the military. I think he worked in the car industry his whole life. He worked, jobs like that. And I remember we lived together for a time, and then I left. And as I was leaving, we were packing up the truck. And he says to me, what are you going to do next? I was like, I don't know. World's my oyster. I'll figure it out. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, whatever you do, let me know because I got to get out of this car business. I said, all right, brother, I'll figure it out. And then something happened. And at this point, like I'd been out for a couple years, and my military friends, I would still get emails every once in a while, like maybe somebody committed suicide, or I'd see it, somewhere, and somebody, roundabout way, find me on Facebook or whatever. But it was getting less and less. I'm thinking I'm done. At least I'm done losing friends. And this just goes to show you never know what's going on with somebody. For whatever reason, I have no idea why, he stopped talking to me. And like I said, we're like brothers. And 6 months later, I get a call from one of my childhood friends, Dustin Harper, and he says, he worked with him still. And he says, I wanted you to hear this from me. I didn't want anybody else to tell you this. The cops are here at work. Shandana's not here. I think he's dead. And I was like, get the fuck out of here.
That's crazy.
Like, what are you telling me? And it didn't turn his whole thing. But at the end of the day, having to deal with Shandana dying, it made me realize that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do again. And I was just getting by. And I wasn't happy. And so I left. And my plan was to come to California, get an Airstream trailer, live on the beach, and just retire. You know? And I stopped in Hollywood. Who doesn't want to drive through LA and not stop at Hollywood, right? So I stopped in Hollywood and I talked to this lady at a bar, and I think she worked for like Live Nation. And she told me how cheap it was to live here because she moved here from San Francisco. And I was like, okay, so I stayed a little bit. And then I got an apartment, and I ended up, hanging out with these musicians, and people at these industry parties kept telling me, you should be an actor, you should be an actor. And that's how I got into Hollywood. But the thing about it is I never would have come here if Shandana didn't do what he did. I think that was one of the main reasons I came out here, because I thought I was done dealing with that. And then to see one of my civilian friends that, like I said, became a brother to me, going through that again, it was too much. Like, it got to the point, Joseph, and I don't even know if you know this part about me, because we haven't really talked about this, but it got to the point where there was blades of grass on the median of the road.
Oh, wow.
And I would look at those blades of grass, and it would make me sad, because the grass had been that high before, and it wasn't the same blades of grass, but it had been that high before when me and Shandana were in the car sitting at this very same light.
Yeah.
I couldn't even look at it anymore. Not just the grass.
Hard. Death is hard.
Dude, it does weird shit to you.
It does.
And so that's how I came out here. It wasn't to be an actor. It wasn't to be a writer or a filmmaker or, a friend or anything. I just wanted to disappear. And I found a new family, new life. I just recently got engaged.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. And she has like one of the sweetest families.
She's so sweet.
She is too.
She's incredible.
I'm telling you, the apple isn't far from the tree. Like her family. We spent our first Christmas together with her family.
She's so easy to work with too. Oh my god.
She's so professional.
So
dude.
easy.
She's so professional. And then for Thanksgiving, we flew part of my family out. My brother's in the Air Force. He couldn't make it, but the other brother and my mom, they flew out, and the families met, and that's when I knew, like, this is it. So I literally came home and went and got a ring.
That's awesome.
And obviously she said yes, and here we are. But like, the time growing up in Oklahoma City was great, and I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. But like you said, you got to get out, you got to look around, you got to expand your horizons. The military did that for me. It gave me a sense of discipline. It gave me everything I needed. Adversity. It gave me trauma. Taught me how to deal with all these things, and then it turned me loose. And it goes back to thinking, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind of person that's going to take everything that happens to you and say life's unfair and you're just going to stay where you're at? Or are you going to get up, climb out of that hole, and go do something else? You know what I mean? And that's what I learned about myself in that situation is I will always choose to climb out of that hole. I've been knocked down so many freaking times, and life had to reset so many times that I would just get up and I would go do something else. And if it didn't make me happy, I didn't do it. And as veterans, we get that extra paycheck for disabilities and stuff like that now. And, we're allowed that opportunity to change our situation. And I think,
yeah, you deserve it though.
I think the world, well, we'll see. That remains to be seen. But I think the biggest advantage that people can have in life is to never, my mom used to say, never accept any wooden nickels. Never take less than what you're worth. And if you're feeling like, you're not appreciated, look somewhere else. There is another spot for you. And, my fiance Julia, she taught me that, like, finding a partner in life. We've all had relationships and stuff like that. And as a veteran, losing people, and you don't get those people back. And you go through a cycle of trying to find the person that is your person. And I was able to go through these relationships and learn from these bad relationships. And then COVID came, and I got, alone time. 2-3 years I wasn't in a relationship to figure out what I wanted to do. And man, when it came down to it, I met her and everything just made sense. Everything just made sense. And it felt too good to be true. And I just stuck with it. And the more and more I learned about her, the more and more I realized that her and I are aligned in ways that some people we were never aligned that way. And it's awesome to find a partner in life, you know, and somebody that to go through that can, you know, in a lot of relationships and friendships, you'll be passing stuff up for somebody else to handle, or you'll be passing something back.
Yes.
It's very rare that you find somebody you can just hand it to the left or right, and they carry the load evenly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she does for me. She carries the load
awesome.
evenly, and
it's beautiful.
we take care of each other. You know, I'm in a great spot now. And talking to my mom, she said 5 years, yada yada yada. I wasn't in a great spot during COVID.
Yeah.
I got depressed. I got more high, drank milkshakes, got out of shape. It was fun. It was fun to really kind of self-destruct for a little while. You know.
I think it's kind of needed sometimes. Like if you're really stuck in a situation, like I recently, I won't spend too much time because we do have to wrap up. But okay. I recently had I would say like a downward spiral, which led to me getting sober. Mm-hmm. And I think that deconstructiveness and that just destruction that like wreaks havoc around your life. Because the reason I got sober was mainly like because like nothing was happening for me. Yeah. Yeah. You know, but like that in itself was like, it just like felt like it destroyed everything. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I think having destructive moments in your life mm-hmm. are very needed and very crucial. They might not feel like it in the moment, but I do believe that they are very crucial.
They are important. They are important. They define who you are. And years down the road, you see the growth from it. Mm-hmm. It's like, growth is a lot like courage. Sometimes you don't naturally just have the ability to grow or have the ability to be courageous. You got to do the scary shit. You got to do the work. Mm-hmm. And time will tell. Down the road, you see like, oh shit, like I really changed, didn't I? Oh, sometimes you can't, like we talked about in the beginning, you can't see the forest through the trees. Same thing with the military. And, we got to wrap it up, but I want to say another piece of advice to veterans coming out.
Please do.
Film is a huge part of the military. We are on deployments. We'll be sitting around doing nothing but watching movies. Same back in my day with same DVDs over and over and over again, streaming services, whatever we can get. But we watch the same 5 movies over and over and over again. And I remember coming out of the military and, adjusting. And I went and saw my dad. One of the last movies we saw together was Lord of the Rings. And he hadn't been to the movie theater in like 30 years.
Wow. And
we went and saw Lord of the Rings before I left. And so when I came back, he had passed and, new Lord of the Rings had come out. And the last one came out and I went to go watch it. I finally sat down to watch it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, they have like, little hobbits doing their thing. But they're back at home. They're back at home mm-hmm. in the Shire. And everybody's living their lives doing hobbit shit. And these 3 particular hobbits, these 4, they're looking around at each other and they got these drinks in their hand and they're watching all this merriment around them. And they're just looking at each other like, fuck. Like we've been through some shit. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if we can do this again. I don't know if we could be like that ever again. Like that looks so fun, but I don't know if I can do that again. Yeah. And that's the part of military movies themselves leave out. Like they have like, not military movies, maybe like action movies that portray military as like these badasses or whatever. They don't show you how it tears you up. Mm-hmm. Like winning the fight there's nothing like it. Yeah. But man, you pay for it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love American Sniper so much is mm-hmm. it's known for showing that pain.
Yeah. And that's when I remember seeing those hobbits on screen. I was just like, that's that look. They know they've been through something mm-hmm. life-changing. Yeah. And that these other people around them will never be able to experience that. And you can't explain it to them. Mm-hmm. You can tell them the story. The perception's not going to be there. Yeah. They're going to be like, oh, it's crazy. But those 4 little fucking hobbits, man. I was watching that, their expression on their face, and I was like, shit. Yeah. Me too, buddy. Me too. I've been to Mordor. That shit was not great. You know what I mean? And I always use that to this day. People ask me like, what kind of movie gives you like your biggest like military thing? I was like, watching those fucking hobbits go back to the Shire after they've been around the goddamn world, and they're just like, dude, I don't even have hair on my feet anymore. What the fuck is going on? Let's get the hell out of here. You know, I think Frodo and the other guy, did they just fucking leave?
Yeah.
You know, they're just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this again. So it is hard. It is hard. But I'm glad we get to end it on a joke like that. But
yeah, I think that's a really great way to end it. It's really funny.
It is hard. It's an adjustment, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And, you know, just finding what you want to do is important. Have that plan. My brother's getting ready to get out of the Air Force right now.
Oh, wow.
And I keep telling him, like, the number one question I keep asking him is, do you have a plan? He owns a home. He's got a car. He's got dogs. He's, you know, that's his family. And I asked him, I said, Mike, I said, do you have something lined up?
Mm-hmm.
And he's not sure. He's not sure. And now I'm not going to force him to do anything. I'm not going to, you know, judge him or anything like that. But when I ask him, like, do you have something, a plan? Man, if it sounds like he's even questionable to me, like he says something, I'm like, ugh. Buddy, stay in. Stay in. Stay until you have a plan.
Yeah.
Stay in. Do not get out unless you have a plan.
I hope my sister watches it. Both my sisters watch this.
I know it sucks. I know it sucks, but I'm telling you right now, nothing sucks worse than getting out of the military and not knowing what the hell you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, have those steps start building your resume. Start putting things in motion before you get out. Don't
take courses. Like,
don't wait. Yeah.
I tell people
at
all the
least
time.
have school lined up.
I tell people all the time. I don't think a lot of people know it exists. There's this thing called Corsa.org, and it's literally a company that partners with like Yale, Harvard, University of Michigan, like all these big name, University of London, like all these big name universities, and they offer like 4-week to 6-month long courses that get you like certificates that get you an actual job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have a few like Yale and Harvard like little certificates on my resume just because I took like psychological
whatever courses
there and it got me a completion, you know? So
yeah,
like,
that's great. Yeah, you're right. Like they need to, even if it's school, like have it lined up. Even if it's to go back to school, know what those finances are going to look like when you go back to school. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. That's all I got, man. Like that's it.
Thank you so much for this episode was great. I'm not gonna lie. I hope it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but it's definitely, I think, my most favorite episode I've had yet.
Mine too. No, I'm joking.
But dude, seriously, thank you for coming on. And you know, like I said, you were one of the first people I wanted to have on, anyways.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And it's just been a whirlwind since. You know, I took my 6-month hiatus off of this. Yeah. You know, I needed that break as well. It's okay to have destructive moments in your life, you know.
Dude, take a break sometimes. It's fine.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, just thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to...
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. And it's going to be such a resourceful podcast. I'm really excited.
Me too.
Put it out, man.
Yeah, hopefully it gets out to the right people and, you know, maybe somebody hears something that you know, resonates with them and it helps them. I think that's the whole point of the podcast in general. So hopefully that helps.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, man. Again, everyone, filmmaker, actor, veteran, JR Vigil.
Yeah.
See you next time.